What's up, guys? How are you doing? So today I would like to give you a little introduction into Notion and the Notion nodes within n8n and how you can basically automate any kind of process that you are doing within Notion itself. And the topics that I would like to cover are, first of all, to understand how Notion is actually built in regards to the architecture, because that's a major point that you need to understand, first of all. Then how you can get the credentials, and then I'm going to jump into a couple of the trigger and action nodes that we have available within n8n. Now, I'm not the biggest fan of Notion, to be honest. I think it's everything and nothing. It's not a real note taker. It's not a real to-do list. It's not a real database. But at the same time, it tries to do everything, right? And to be a replacement for a CRM and what you can imagine. However, I know it's pretty popular, right? And what can be a little frustrating is to understand how you can actually interact with each and every one of those components that are available within Notion from n8n, right? And this is the reason why I would like to give you an introduction into the Notion architecture itself first. And so let's see how this actually looks like in Notion itself. So I am within my Notion account, as you can see right now. I'm on my home screen, as you can see. And what I would like to explain to you is, first of all, how the different kinds of objects or the different kinds of pages actually work within n8n, because this is not as self-explanatory as you might think. And the reason for this is, if I jump back into n8n again, and you can see that I have a very simple flow. I just selected one of the Notion nodes that are available. And if I open this, then obviously this is connected to my Notion account, and how you can get the credentials is something I'm going to show you as well. And then if you jump into the resources, then there are a couple of terms that you need to be familiar with to know how you can actually, retrieve the exact data that you want to retrieve, or create new objects, create the new objects that you can see right here. And the terms that we are dealing with are block, database, database page, and then page by itself, right? And then the users. Users is quite self-explanatory, but the other ones you need to be aware of. So back into Notion again, I have created a test team space on the left-hand side, as you can see, right? And I have deliberately used icons for this because, as you can see, both of these first entries, as you can see, the vision and strategy page and the team space home page are they have a different icon than the last ones, right? The meetings and the docs. Reason for this is, if you create a new object, if you will, if you create a new element within one of your team spaces, if I click on this, then you have the option to decide basically between a page and a database, right? And then you have the option to build it with AI. But at the end of the day, each and every one of those components that you see within the left sidebar right here is either one of these two, right? So it's either a base or a database or a page. And if you create a new one, then they are not equipped with these icons so that it's quite clear what exactly they are. So you would need to jump into that specific element and see what it actually looks like. But what you can also do is click on these three dots on the right-hand side, as you can see, and then you have the heading page, or if I jump back into this one right here, you have the heading of database, and then you exactly know what you're dealing with, right? Now, if you take a look into either one of these, so let me jump into the vision and strategy, then you can see that this is basically just a normal page, as you would expect, right? It has all these different kinds of elements on. And if I jump onto the next page, this one looks like this, right? Now, if I jump onto either one of those databases, then they obviously have a different kind of layout, if you will, right? So they basically look like tables. This is what you might expect, right? So do the docs. If I jump onto the docs, then this looks a little different, but at the end of the day, these are all just basically tables. Now, to confuse you even more with this, within those tables, right? If you have any entry, and you can see this also from these icons right here that I used on the specific titles, if I open them, then you can not necessarily see, but judging by the options that you see right here, which says copy page content, for instance, right, or log page, that either one of these entries is also a page, right? And if I jump now into n8n, then now I hope you understand the difference between a usual database, between a page, and then a database page, right? So a database page is either one of those entries, right, as you can see, because it's a page within a database, right? Then again, a single page on the top level, if you will, is either one of those entries, and a database obviously is either one of those entries, right? And as I've said before, if you create new ones, then you have the option to choose between either one of those two. Now, this remains just one option that we see right here in regards to the resource we want to interact with, and this is the block. Now, what are blocks? If you have a page within Notion, I'm going to jump into the first one again. Then if I hover over any of those elements, right, whether it's this Notion tip right here or the heading of the mission, as you can see, if I click on this, then you can see that there's a specific term which is copy link to block, right? What this means is that each and every one of these elements that you see right here, where I have this little nub icon, this is a block, right? So I am able to specifically target any kind of block, right, that I want to get or that I want to create for within Notion, or get them out of Notion, if you will. And each one of those entries is at the end of the day a block and has a separate link, right? So if I click on this right here, and if I pasted this into my URL bar, then you can see that this is just a link to Notion. Then you have the page name where it is placed, right? And then there's a specific ID which leads directly to the specific block, right? And if I go back into n8n again, and then I switch back to the resource, then you can see now that I have the operation of get child blocks, right? Which would basically mean that I am able, if I have an h1 or a block at the very top right here, that I would be able to get all the blocks within this specific page, right? So basically, depending on the link to that specific block that I receive, I am able to get all the subsequent blocks as well, right? And this is basically how the logic and the architecture itself within Notion works. Now let's quickly run this just for testing. I'm going to open this up again. This is again connected to my account. Resource is a block right now, and let me just grab the databases that I have, right? And I can decide if I want to grab a specific database, if I want to search a couple of them, right? Or if I want to get many, and then I can either decide if there's a limit or I want to return all. Actually, I only have these two databases right now. I'm going to execute the step, and now you can see that I indeed get those two databases that I have within my account. All right, and the same thing goes with the pages. So if I switch from the database to the pages, and I'm looking for a specific page, and by the way, I can't get many pages. I need to use the search function, and then let's say I'm going to use the team space text as a search query, right? And I'm going to execute this. Then this is actually giving me the team space home right now. And if I now switch back to the database page, then depending on what I have within my databases, right, then I'm basically able to get the data from here. So let's pick the docs that I have right here. I'm going to back into my n8n account. I'm looking for a database page, and I want to get many pages as well. And then I have to basically pre-select first the database that I want to interact with. And now I have access to both the docs and the meeting database, right? And if I chose docs and execute this step, and this is giving me these exact results that I also have right here. All right, and let's finally also take a look into the block. So I'm going to pick the block as a resource. Operation is not going to append after, so I can also create new blocks. So depending on the previous block, basically, I can append after the specific block a new one, right? But I want to get many or get child blocks. And for this, I also need the block URL, right? And this is now where this button comes from, or comes into a play, where we need to basically use any of these copy link to block URLs, right? So if I click on this little knob besides a block right here, I'm going to copy link to block, go back into n8n, and just paste the URL right here. And if I execute this now, then this is actually giving me all the subsequent items, including the block itself, right? And this is how you get the data, the actual data, right inside to n8n. All right, and then also let's get into the credentials. So how do you actually connect Notion to n8n itself? And I'm going to click on the credentials dropdown right here, and I already obviously have connected this to my account. If you want to create new credentials, you would do this right here, and then this is telling you that you need an internal integration secret right here, right? Now, if you open up the docs, and this button right here is going to lead you directly to the according page in the n8n docs, right? Then this is giving you exactly location of where you are able to find this integration token, right? So if you go onto this integration dashboard there, then you will find the internal integrations, and don't get this confused with the integrations on the top right here, as you can see. So I'm in my profile view, as you can see from Notion itself right now. And within the internal integrations, you will get this little menu right here. I obviously have already connected this to my account, and then you create a new credential, and then you would just give it a name. So let's call this n8n demo, and then the associated workspace, right? And this obviously allows you to interact with the complete Notion workspace that you have selected in the top left corner right here. And as soon as you have done this, you could just click on create, and then integration successfully created. And then you would go to the configure integration settings, and right down here, you have the internal integration secret, and then you would just show it, and then you're able to copy this and paste it into the according field within n8n. All right, now there are two things that we need to be aware of. So first of all, we get this remark from Notion itself right here. Your integration doesn't have access to any pages yet, right? So to start using your integration, add pages and databases from the content access tab. And this is something that you really need to do, that you have to do. So if you click on this, then you are basically switching tabs from the configuration to the content access. And if you want to allow basically this specific integration to have access to specific pages from your account, then you need to do this right here, right? So you would edit access, and then you can basically choose where this specific integration is supposed to have access to, right? And then you can just select it and then save it, and then this will be listed right here. Now, there's another way, or a more dedicated way, how you can do this. And I am going to jump into n8n, back into n8n, and I'm going out of my credential window right here, go back into the node itself, and this is actually giving you a hint as well. So in Notion, make sure to add your connection to the pages you want to access, right? And just to show you what this looks like, if you remember, we have both of these pages, right? So we have Vision and Strategy, and we have TeamSpace Home. So if I am looking for these pages, right, and I would select the resource page, and then I would search, and if I look for TeamSpace, and this is what we have done a second ago, and this is giving me the specific result, right, based on the search term that I used. Now, if I was looking for Vision, right, and remember that this is the page that's supposed to be found right now, and if I execute this, then you can see that there's no output data returned, right? Why is this? So if I go back to Notion again, then if I have selected the very page that I want to have n8n access to, or give n8n access to, and at the very top right corner of every page, you have these three dots right here. And if you click on this, then at the very bottom right here, it says Connections, right? And if you select this Connections menu, as you see right here, then you can see that there are these active connections, or rather the ones that you can choose from, right, based on what you have created before in this place in the internal integrations tab right here, right? And you can see that I have active connections right here. So this is connected, and I am basically allowing this integration to have access to this very page, right? And I can even select the types of capabilities it is allowed to do, right, on the specific page. But if I switch back to Vision and Strategy, to this page right here, and if now I go on these three dots right here and I scroll down to the connections, then you can see that there are none, right? And this is the reason why I didn't have access before, and it didn't even give me the result that there is this page called Vision, right, before from the specific request. And I only had access to this TeamSpace Home site. All right, and then finally, let's take a more deeper look into a couple of these trigger and action nodes we have natively integrated within the n8n installment, right? And if I was to look for Notion, then there's a native node, and there are triggers and there are action nodes, right? And the triggers, as you can see, is on page added to database. And now you can see that the distinction and knowing how the different types of elements are called, right, it becomes important, because now you can see that the only triggers that you have within n8n natively are the ones where you add a new page to a database and a page is updated in a database, right? So you don't have necessarily access, or you can't use a native page as a trigger, right, in some way, shape, or form. And this is already in that regard. Then in regards to the action nodes, there are a couple of more, and we have already taken a look at these. And the block actions, is something that we have taken a look at already. So let's use this again to append a block right now. All right. So let's look for a block that we have right here. So I'm going to use let's take the TeamSpace again, right? And in the About the Team block right here, I would like to take this link from the block, and I'm going to paste this in the according URL field right here. And after this block, I want to add another block. Now, what type of block I can add? This is something that I can choose. If I click on add block right here, then I'm able to basically decide and pick and choose from this dropdown right here. And then obviously accordingly, this new entry will be added, right? So let's say that below this heading right here, which is an H1, I believe, or an H2, or it's an H1 now. And let me just add an H2 heading to that. And let's use as a text just about the team. And then let's just say member A. Then you can see that I do get the results. So jumping into the schema view, this is giving me a lot of information actually. And if I jump now into the team space, then now you can see that this has actually been appended to the specific page, right? And now I can really creatively build my own pages with these. Now, as for the second option with the blocks, we have already taken a look at this, right? So if I want to get the child blocks, then let me just use the same URL that we had before. If I execute this one, then you can see that I get all the items from this specific page, or all the blocks rather from this specific page. And this is returning this one. All right, then let's continue with the next resource. We are going to choose the database right now. I think that's pretty clear right now. So you need or you can get many of those databases that you have, right? If I execute this again, this was one of the first things that we did. And I have access to both of these ones, right? So the docs, both as well as the meetings. And if I want to get a specific one, then either I can use the dropdown that I have, right? And this is giving me access to manually select between all those databases within my account, right? If you want to have it more dynamically, then you can also choose the URL, or you can also use the ID itself, right? And then finally, obviously, just like with the pages, you can also use the search text function, right? To get any database depending on its specific name. So if I was to look for meetings right here, and if I executed this, then this is giving me specifically this result right here. All right, then the next one will be the database pages, and we have already learned what this actually means, right? And you can create new database pages, but again, you need to have a parent database before that, right? So if I wanted to create a new database page, right, then I need to define the database first, right? So I would either have to use the meetings or the docs, and then within that, right, I can choose to create a new database just like so, or a new page rather. And let me just use n8n demo right here, and then I can obviously add more properties, right? And depending on the database structure, right, I can choose between titles, and let me just use a test title right here. And then I can even add more blocks into this. And if I executed this one, then this is giving me a little feedback. And if I jump into n8n again, into Notion again, then now you can see that this has actually been added to this specific database that I chose right here. All right, then the next thing would be to get a database page. And if I choose get right here, then I now again need the URL, right, to this specific database page. And remember the distinction between them, right? So if I go back into Notion right here, then I don't need to select any of these elements right here, but I actually need to select a page within a database, right? So all of these entries have a dedicated ID within them, right? A dedicated link. So I can choose any of them. And if I click on this, then they also have this copy link button. And if I click on this and this has been copied to my clipboard, then this is the thing that I can use to paste it right here. And if I executed this right now, then this is giving me exactly the specific entry of this page right here. The next thing would be to get many, right? So get many databases and database pages rather. And then again, I need to select the database that I want to interact with. I'm going to choose the docs again. And if I execute this, and I think we've already done this, then I get these now 5 entries, right? I have added one more to this from this specific table right here. Also pretty self-explanatory. Then the last thing within the database pages resource is that I can do an update, obviously, right? And if I want to update something, then I again need an ID to that specific element that I want to update, just like you would do with something like Google Sheets or Airtable or whatever you're using, right? The database, so that you exactly know which row is supposed to be updated. And this time again, I need to have the ID of this specific a database page, right? And let's just say that I want to change this one, getting started with docs, right? So let me copy this link right here, and I'm going to use this here. And now the property that I want to change, or that I want to add, basically, let me just rename this to getting started with, let's say, n8n and Notion, just like so. And let's see what this does. And now I get the feedback. And if I now jump into Notion, then now you can see that this has actually been changed, and exactly the page, right, the row that we are use the link for. All right, so the next thing is that we want to use the pages right now, and I am going to select the create a page view, and what we now need is a parent page URL. And if I go back into Notion, then remember that I can get that specific link, that URL for a specific page from this URL, or from this context menu right here. So right, so if I click on these 3 dots right here besides any of those elements, in this case it's a page, then I can also use this copy link button right here. And as soon as that's done, then I'm able to jump back into n8n, paste this right here, and I'm going to call it test page with n8n and Notion, going to execute this right here, and then I get this back. And if I now jump back to Notion right here, and I go back into the Teamspace home, then now you can see that this page has already been created. All right, great. Now let's use the next operation right here, and archiving a page I think is also pretty self-explanatory. Let's use the same URL we have, or the same page rather, we have just created. So let's use this URL right here, the test page, and I'm going to copy the link right here. I'm going to paste this into n8n again, execute it, and it has been executed successfully. And now if I jump back, then you can see that move this page to the trash right now, it will be automatically deleted within 30 days. Perfect. This is exactly what we're looking for. All right, and then finally, let's also use the search function again, and we have already tested this before, right? And I am just going to show you this again for completeness sake. So if I was to look for home, for instance, and I executed this one, then this is giving me the Teamspace home based on the specific name of that page, right? Perfect, right. So these are all now the resources that we have interacted with. Okay, and then finally, let's also take a look at the user operations that we have. So we can get a specific user, or we can get many users. This is what I'm going to do right now. Execute it right here, and then you have access to all the users that you have within your Notion account, right? And this also gives you the ID. So if there's a specific user that you are looking for, then you can use that user ID. Just switch the operation to get, enter the user ID right here, execute this step, and then you only get the specific user, as you can see. All right, so these are all the Notion operations that you can conduct within n8n, right? And you can see that this can can get quite powerful. And so you will have to use Notion. So you would need to like Notion. So that's on you, and enjoy working with it. I find it pretty confusing, but at the end of the day, that's your choice. And I know how popular this tool actually is. One little remark at the end that I wanted to also let you know is that we are not yet really able to interact with Notion via MCP. And MCP is the so-called Model Context Protocol. And if you are building AI agents, then you probably have already heard of this. And this is an extremely powerful way how you can give access to your Notion installation to a specific agent, right? So that it's basically able to do all the operations that we now have conducted manually on its own, right? However, at the time of this recording, the integration or the connection actually to n8n because of n8n's own integration is not fully usable yet, to be honest. And this will probably change within the next couple of weeks, months, I don't know. But if you are using something like Claude Code or Cursor, then you can already use this, and it's quite easy actually to get started with this. But at the time of this recording, using MCP for Notion is not really reliable, and actually also not really possible, or there are some really technical workarounds that are not as stable, so that I should suggest this. But if this changes, I'm happy to let you guys know. And yeah, I hope this was helpful. Thanks a lot for your attention, and hope to see you next time. Bye.